are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Monica Byrne-Jimenez, and I will be one of the presenters during your PSR orientation today. One of the reasons that we like to do these new PSR orientations is because it's important to let you all know what's going on, what is the plenum, what's the role of the plenum, before we actually get to San Diego, where things tend to happen fast and furious. And so we wanted to give new PSRs an opportunity to understand the organization, ask any questions, and then get ready for when we meet in November. So I appreciate this is sort of a busy time of year for everybody, so thanks for making time. I think what we'd like to do now is give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, and so if you could just say your name and what institution you're from, and then we'll get back to the presentation.
Hello, I'm Lee Wallace from UW-Milwaukee.
This is Leslie Locke from the University of Iowa.
This is Catherine DiMartino from Hofstra University.
This is Carlos Lee from Louisiana State University.
This is Karen Beard from The Ohio State University.
Carol Shakeshat, VCU.
Oh, great. I think we're back. Yes, I think. All right. Just to we're going to show you a couple of slides that are an overview of UCEA, our mission, and then I think to the right of your screen, you'll see a toolbar that has people's names, and there's an area in the bottom there where you can type in questions. You can type your questions there, and Tara will be the one to keep an eye on that and let me know if there's anything that we need to address right now, or if there's time at the end, we'll go over all the questions. So, we're just going to go over an overview of things that you probably already know, but we do want to sort of go in detail about it. And I think Tara is muted right now, so as soon as Tara gets unmuted, I will let her introduce herself. So as you know, UCA has been growing significantly in the past couple of years, and so now we're up to about 100 member institutions, and we have inquiries from members from all around the country happening all the time, as well as internationally. We've begun to accept our first international members to this. I think, Tara, you're off mute now.
Hear me?
Yeah, so do you want to just introduce yourself? Because I know that I don't think they heard you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure. It muted me and I wouldn't let me unmute myself. So I'm Tara Vincent Chambers. I'm on the EC as well, and I'm at Michigan State.
Great, thanks, Tara. And so, one of the things that UCA really strives to do is to improve and strengthen the preparation of educational leaders, both at the superintendent and the school level, increase and improve research, and how that gets disseminated, and how to use the tools that we have at our disposal more effectively in order to influence policy at the state and at the national level. Again,
You want to do the next? Yeah,
what?
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tara.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, no, you do the slide and then I'll go.
Okay. Sure. Oh, you want me to do this one? Is that what you're saying? Perfect. So yeah, so we sort of have a set of values that we live up to, that we hold ourselves to on the EC, as well as our member organizations and the individuals in the plenum. And as we continue to work to research and study and disseminate and influence policy, we're very concerned around improving the lives of children in the schools where our students work, and as well as the research that we do, with a real focus that's been strengthened, I think, significantly over the past decade or so around issues of social justice and equity. Tara, you wanted to say something?
Nope. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like from when folks were introducing themselves that some of you are really, really new to this role as PSR, and maybe some of you, it's not so new, or you're not new to UCEA, either you're at a new institution or something like that. So some of this may be familiar to you. But in terms of like the official role of what a PSR does, there's a legal role, there is a linkage role, there is a leadership and catalyst role. So in the bylaws, making decisions and influencing the conversation around budgetary issues and deciding on changes to membership, institutional memberships. With the linkage role, we're talking about carrying the information that links UCEA staff and relevant others with respect to department faculty, graduate students, college and university administration, and other educational agencies, so that we're providing that link, right, the linkage role. And then the last role is this idea of a leadership or catalyst role, that we're relating the leadership that has come to be expected of UCEA to the design of preparation programs and the professional activities of faculties in the university. So getting colleagues and initiatives. And actually, why don't you go to the next slide, and there's more I want to say globally about these two slides, but I won't yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, go to.
I just want to add also
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
About the linkage role, because I think one of the things that's become even more important for PSRs is communication with their department chair and keeping their chair sort of in the loop, particularly in institutions where leadership is only a program within a larger department. And so they're sort of educating the department chairs around what UCEA is becomes more important. And similarly, working with the deans and keeping the deans informed of what UCEA is, who we are, and the kind of work that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me get to the next slide.
So the commitment of being a PSR is really this next slide. And it's a big deal. Like at 3 years, you're eligible to serve on the EC. And so that's important for your institutional representation, right? It's great to have your voice at the table of the executive committee. But more than that, you know, as you can see, as we're talking about what the different roles and responsibilities are, and we'll talk about that more in a second too, it's important that we have a body of leadership that has some time in the seat, right? Like if we have, you know, every year we're going to have some turnover. We have new institutions, the importance of serving in this role for at least 3 years, and some of you will serve for longer than that, and that's great. We like to see some continuity across a good chunk of the PSRs from year to year, and that just helps us with our you know, with the running of the organization. So with that commitment of 3 years, there's this idea of professional courtesy and consistent leadership and continuity and organizational knowledge, that you're maintaining the visibility of your institution. There's a sense of personal accomplishment that comes from serving in this role, and then, you know, your knowledge of your professional impact. Anything else you want to say there, Monica?
Nope. Sounds good.
Okay. So go. The, you know, not so great way and the great way. The not so great way is, you know, you just come to UCEA, you come to the plenum, you do your job, you respond to the email request that we send out to you, you vote, you know, you do your duty, right? That's okay, but there is a higher level of expectation that we have of PSRs that goes beyond that, that really encourages you to embrace this opportunity as something that you can, like for your own personal and professional growth. And I can speak to this sort of personally. Like I transitioned to the field of educational leadership from a totally different field. My background is in ed policy, and my first tenure track job was in an educational studies department. So moving into education leadership was really disorienting for me at first. And so my first UCEA, I felt really overwhelmed. And then they made me the PSR, not because they thought, you know, for all the good reasons that we've outlined so far, but really just because no one else wanted to do it. But it really was a blessing in disguise. It was the way started to make connections and understand this field a lot more globally, but also more specifically in terms of the governing of the of UCEA. So it was a great opportunity for me. And now here at Michigan State, having continued on in the role and being on the EC is just, you know, it's been really great. So some of you are institutions where you have strong UCEA connections and there's really great mentoring already. And if that's the case, you know, that's great. Then you're going to be in good shape. Some of you, though, are going to be in the situation like I was when I first became a PSR at my previous institution, where maybe there's been turnover in the department, and so there isn't really an understanding of what UCEA does or why it's important, or folks are at a different stage and they just aren't as interested in, you know, going to the convention, or, you know, for lots of reasons, you're kind of out there by yourself. I really want to encourage you to be to take the initiative to get your institution fired up again. That's the idea of being a catalyst that we talked about in the previous slide. And so on these next few slides, we're going to be sharing some examples with you of how you might be that catalyst, or how you might encourage people at your institution to be more involved. So in terms of being an effective liaison between UCEA and your department, like Monica was talking about, you know, it's about sharing all the UCEA information, all the opportunities that are coming your institution's way. Like, because we're counting on you as the representative for your institution. So when things your dean with your colleagues and vice versa, like getting their input on things, but then also bringing their voice back to UCEA. You're really our link with each institution. There are some other very specific tasks, like maintaining your department UCEA directory. It's important that there's a link through the UCEA website that you can follow, and make sure all of that information is current and updated, because we really do use that information Our member institutions use that information. Students use that information. So make sure that it's accurate. And like I was saying, when you get information about what's happening at UCEA or you go to the plenum and you come back to your institution, it's important that you share with your colleagues what's been going on. They're not necessarily going to have a sense of what's happening at the leadership level. All of these very interesting and important things that are happening, they won't necessarily know about unless you tell them. And so because you're not just representing your own vote, you're representing your institution in all voting, it's important that you get people's perspective. And so we try to roll out information in enough time in advance of an actual vote so that you can do that, so that you can go to a faculty meeting and present the information and get feedback and then come back and be able to vote. But it's important that you know that that's your responsibility to do. Monica? Anything else you want to say about that slide?
No, I think you did a great job.
Okay, so this next slide, how to get the most out of being a PSR, part 1. The professional organization in our field, UCEA, and the Plenum. That is a really, that's kind of the big deal of where all the leadership decisions are made. So being there and being socialized in that process is important. That you're attending the most prestigious national convention with current leaders in the field of educational leadership. There's the potential for direct impact on our field. National, multinational networking, the benefits of a broader locus of professional contacts, understanding different contexts, and opportunities to enhance your research. Again, these are all ways that if you're looking for, like how am I going to make the most of being a PSR, these are the things that you can think about doing, the opportunities that you can see on some emails and vote. There is really this larger impact that you're able to have and that we encourage you to have.
And I also think, it's an important part of being a PSR, but also, in the previous slide, working with and making UCEA an experience that you share with your graduate students, and bringing them along to the convention and helping them become socialized into not just the convention, but into the field. And I think even though that's something that all faculty should do as a representative of your institution, and conversely as a representative of UCEA at your institution, it's an important opportunity for graduate students to be more connected to the organization.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Get to the next slide.
Okay, more ways that you can get the most out of being a PSR. There are so many things that you can do. Opportunity, not just to expand your research, but expand on publications. I personally have collaborated on research with other an opportunity I might not have had otherwise. You can get involved in grants. You get leadership experience at the national level, which, again, speaking from my personal experience, had I not, just thinking also for those of you who may be assistant professors, like getting contact with people who then ended up writing letters for me at tenure, right? They may not have been people I would have had that kind of connection with, and so there aren't a lot of ways that you can get national leadership, so that's not something to be taken lightly. Service opportunities in a broader context through your connection with being a PSR for UCEA. There will be all kinds of opportunities for you to be involved in a variety of service activities that come through either at the convention or throughout the year, but mainly at the convention. Service counting for promotion. Again, I think that goes with the idea of we're all doing this out of the goodness of our hearts, of course, but there is this additional benefit of this professional impact that being a PSR has, right? So service counting for promotion, and then service to a profession that needs your input. We need your experience. We need your expertise. It's really true. It's not, for those of you who have maybe been a PSR at other institutions and are coming into this experience at a new institution, it's not, we're not paying, you know, this is not just lip service. This is not a superficial contribution that you're making. We really rely on PSRs and the decision-making process that we make as an executive committee. We really do bring things to your attention and want to have conversations about things. Your input is very valued. I don't want to underscore that point because I think you'll realize very quickly when you get to the plenum, there are lots of opportunities for you to share your opinion, and it's critically needed. Monica?
I'm sorry, I'm getting this feedback. It just occurred to me too that that we should probably explain as well. Plenum is made up of one representative from every member institution. So when you walk into the plenum, there's going to be at least 100, and probably close to 120 because associate members as well as or institutions that are affiliated each get a representative at the plenum. So it's a pretty big group. The other thing too, when it comes to publications, some of the premier publications are actually UCEA publications. So EAQ, JCEL, JRLE are all UCEA publication outlets, as well as the UCA review that comes out a couple of times a year, and then the UCA Connections that comes out, I think, monthly.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I tried to mute myself, Monica, so that maybe you're not getting. And I am periodically checking the. But feel free to type a question as they come to you.
Great. So this is probably some more of the same, but clearly we think it's really important that you become active in UCEA. Initiatives and activities and what's happening. I think the real takeaway here is that you get as much out of being a plenum rep as you put in, and so the more active you are, through the webinars, at the plenum, reaching out to EC members, reaching out to colleagues, the more opportunities will become available for you to become involved in UCEA activities. And clearly the plenum, while it's a really important governing body, it's also an opportunity for you to network, to sort of make the ask, reach out to people who may have either similar research interests or similar institutions that can, better understand your context. I mean, all those are really important ways of beginning the process of becoming more involved in the plenum and the organization. And there's several activities or initiatives that are happening right now that I'll just mention a few of them. So that you kind of get a sense of what we're talking about. I think one of the things, we fall into this trap sometimes where we all talk about as if we know exactly what everyone's saying. And so I did want to highlight a few initiatives that UCA has been involved in and will continue to be involved in the coming months and years. One of them you've probably heard a lot about is the new ISLIC standards refresh. So UCA has been involved with CCSO and the Council of Great State Chiefs, no, not that one yet, and the NPBEA on looking and trying to update the ISLIC standards. That process has been happening for over a year. UCA sent out links to get feedback from the field and then use that feedback to help inform the development of the standards. Those will probably be rolled out in the next 6 months or so, so keep your eye out for any information coming from us regarding the ISLIC standards. Another initiative that UCA has been really active in is in the Wallace Foundation Leadership Pipeline, looking at a couple of different things, looking at preparation, looking at sort of outstanding districts and district leadership, and so there have been lots of different sort of research projects within that foundation, within the Wallace Initiative that UCA has been involved in, and you'll hear quite a few sessions during convention that speak specifically to what's happening in the Wallace work. The other couple of other things, one of them is the Inspire survey, which all plenum reps actually are supposed to fill out every year on program features. So it's a survey to kind of get a sense from the field about what program features exist, questions around admissions and graduation, just so that UCEA has an understanding of what our member institutions are doing. There's also several program improvement tools that are available, and all this is actually on the website. But there's several program improvement tools that you can use to assess what your program's doing in terms of leadership preparation, tools to help faculty reflect, and then tools for which to think about how to improve your program. The Inspire survey and the program improvement tools are ongoing. As I said, all the Plenum reps fill out the survey once a year, and so those data are being collected continuously, and the program improvement tools are available for whenever you want them, as well as to get support and how to use them in your institution. The last one is the LSDL modules. These are leaders to support diverse learners. These are sort of open source teaching tools regarding issues of race, English language learners, building community relationships, advocacy. And so there are a series of 6 teaching modules that can be used freely by any member of UCEA, any UCEA institution, or actually any leadership preparation program, as a way to help prepare aspiring principals and superintendents for leading diverse learners. And those were actually developed through a grant that UCEA won, and with teams of faculty from different member institutions. So it's a good example of how you can get involved in some of the grant work that UCEA develops. Is there anything you want to add to that, Tara?
Yeah, I put headphones on. Hopefully that's helping with the feedback issue. Can you still hear me though?
Yes.
Okay. And then while I just say this, I wanted to ask Monica, did we do slide number 10 about the plenum?
No, that's the
next
next one.
Skip slide 10.
No, that's the next one.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Not to worry.
Got it.
Thanks.
I have an old version.
Yes.
The only thing I wanted to say about the survey, it made me think about your role again as the institutional representative for your college or university. So when we send out a survey, you're the only person who's receiving that survey. It's really important that when we're communicating with you, either through a survey or an email asking about, what's happening at various institutions, you may not have the information to answer those questions or to answer the survey, but we're expecting that you'll get that information so that you can respond. It's one of the challenges that we have as an EC when we're trying to get a sense of what's happening at various member institutions, but we're relying on PSRs to give us the information that we need. And I remember as a new PSR at my previous institution, I didn't really know a lot about the questions that were asked on various surveys, so I would have to, print it out and go talk to people or get the information or bring it to a faculty meeting because I didn't have the information to answer the survey. So if you find yourself in that situation, just know that, we're not expecting you to know everything, but we are expecting you to find that information so that you can participate, because it's really important. We really do use that information in our planning decisions.
So in preparation for our plenum meeting in November, the plenum is meeting all day on November 19th, which is a Thursday, which is different from what it's been in the past. So just want to make sure everyone is aware that the convention starts Friday at noon. The plenum will be meeting all day on Thursday from 8 to about 5, and that'll include some breakfast and lunch as well as a reception later on during the day. So if you have not made your travel arrangements, you should plan on arriving on Wednesday night in order to be there for plenum starting at 8 o'clock. One of the initiatives that we started last year during plenum that will be continuing this year is the appreciative inquiry. Some of you may have received invitations to some AI webinars that we had over the summer to get feedback from plenum reps. We will have another AI webinar on October 5th, so if you haven't been involved in that yet, I hope you can make that. But essentially what we started doing in November was engage the plenum in thinking about what are the strengths, what are the core values, what are the experiences that plenum reps have as being a part of UCEA and identify what those strengths are and then use those as we move forward planning the future of the organization. So what we did last year was sort of that initial inquiry into what works, and what we'll be doing this November is sort of working on imagining and creating an organization that really builds on those strengths and values that we identified already. It's a little more complex than that, so again, as I said, we really encourage you to attend the October 5th webinar on what we've done in the appreciative inquiry so far, as well as to give us some input and on the work that we've done to date. Another piece of the plenum that we'll be doing in November is site visits. So we have 5 school visits scheduled for Friday morning, and plenum reps are strongly encouraged to go. These are 5 really interesting different school sites, and we've been in communication with the principals, and San Diego State is actually coordinating that with the principals to make sure that those site visits are really great learning opportunities for us. So if you haven't looked at that yet or haven't registered, take a look at that and sign up for one of those 5 site visits. If the site visit that you have has already reached capacity, and I think a few of them have, just make sure that you put yourself on the wait list, and then we'll make sure that plenum reps get to go on the school of their choice. The other thing that will happen in November is that as new PSRs, you're assigned a plenum partner. And this will be a person that will sort of help walk you through the plenum that first day. Any questions you have regarding what's happening, anything that's going on that you may not be sure about, the plenum partner will be there with you, sitting with you during plenum to make sure that you kind of get you up to speed and that we're not talking about things that you're not sure about. The agenda will also include business. It includes a headquarters update from Michelle, some, looking at the fiscal health of the organization. So there's some sort of business, and we'll be voting on a couple of new member organizations, institutions, and so it will be a very packed agenda, so make sure that you're well rested. Anything else from the November plan that we need to talk about, Tara?
Not for November, but when it said site visits, I actually was
Oh, I see what you were talking about.
About voting on new member institutions. That's actually a fairly involved process. Whenever your institution, whether it was newly joining UCEA or it's been a member institution for a long time, went through some kind of review process. It's a very thorough and comprehensive review. It starts with submitting an application that is ushered through the EC. But then when it makes it past that point, we actually, being a PSR, I was invited to go on a site visit. Usually we have one member from the EC and then one member from the EC and then 1 or 2 plenum reps, in some kind of combination, 2 or 3 people, go to then follow up on the written application with the in-person follow-up site visit. For those institutions that are seeking full membership.
Yes, so as new members, as we get inquiries for people who want to become members of UCEA, as Tara was saying, there is this process for review of the institution, faculty, students, all that kind of, all the sort of program features, and then there's a visit to the institution for those that are applying for full membership. But we won't be doing that in November, so don't worry.
No, not in November. No, they happen, not in November.
Right. And so that's what November was going to look like. Like I said, it's going to be a very packed agenda, as they usually are. So it's important to sort of, like I said, be rested, have your coffee cup or mug, and be ready for. You'll also get information before the plenum to review before you get there. So again, we really encourage you to actually review those materials before you get to the plenum, so that we can be pretty efficient during our meeting. So that's sort of the big picture of what it means to be a plenum rep. sort of, your responsibilities, both to the organization and to your institution. And then, of course, some of the perks that come with being part of this fascinating group of people. So if there are any questions, if we can unmute everybody, or Tara, if there are questions in the chat box that you can just read out. Either one.
When you unmute everybody, the last time it muted me and I couldn't unmute myself. So just if you could watch to see if I get muted and unmute me. But I think it would be fine if we just unmuted everybody if there are questions.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Erin, are you still there? I know she's multitasking today. As we all are.
Sorry, I was.
Well, not me. I'm not multitasking right now.
I would make the suggestion that people either raise their hand, which is something they can do in their panel, or put a question in the chat box, and then I can unmute them individually, because otherwise sometimes people are in cars or have dogs in the background, and it just gets too much feedback.
A little bit too crazy. Oh, that's a good point. Okay,
so
there's a little hand.
Yeah.
There's a little hand icon, and you can illuminate that by clicking on it, so that lets us, it lets, I guess, Erin or Monica know that you have a question. I can't see the list of attendees, so one of you will have to watch to see if a hand goes up.
All right, we have a few hands, so I will go ahead. First, I will take a question.
First live caller. Go ahead.
Would be Miriam Azani.
Oh, Miriam.
Hi.
Hi
there, how are you?
We're good.
I
How
had
are
a
you?
question. I'm well, thanks. I had a question about the ISLIC standards. I knew there was some controversy with the equity standards. Do we have any updated information on that? Do you know where they stand with that right now in terms of making those go through?
I'll go ahead and answer that, Tara.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The most recent information we have is that they met just this past week to look at feedback that had come from the field as well as other sources. So I know that they did talk about that this week. I don't know the details of what that's happened, but as I said, I think they should in the next month or so be rolling out the revised ISLIC standards, and then I think at that point we'll get an opportunity to weigh in again.
Okay, that's great, because I know we had a hefty petition that went out, so hopefully they take that into consideration. Yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely, and that's a great question. Thank you for raising that, because and just in case everyone isn't aware, when the ISLIC standards refresh came out, there was a significant backlash from faculty in particular, because the social justice equity, a lot of the language had been taken out. And there was a letter that was put together that was signed by several hundred people.
It went out by, I think it was the Council of Chief State School Officers that put out that petition that a lot of people signed.
Right, and that got sent back to, there was a letter and all kinds of stuff. So there was a pushback, and as I said, but that's as much information as we know right now. Thank you.
Good question.
All right. Next, we have Megan Shannon Moran.
Wow.
Hello there.
Megan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I've got a little bit of echo too. But I'll try to go through it. I'll really focus. My question had to do with the Inspire survey, and maybe I just need to deal offline with that. But we are wanting to implement it and are having some questions about having the data interface with our institutional data gathering program. And so I wonder, should I just be in touch with Andrea Rohr, or is there some other process to sort of come live on that Inspire survey?
Yeah, no, I think contacting headquarters or Andrea is probably the best bet. I know one of the things that one of the potential that the Inspire suite does have is for accreditation and data gathering around on the outcomes, either although CAPE is still sort of up in the air right now. And so yeah, that's one of the things that we do want to make sure that member institutions have access to. But the logistics of coordinating the data from the UCA side to your institution is probably something you can take up with either Michelle or Andrea.
Great, thank you.
This is Erin. I just wanted to pipe in. Corey Groth from University of Utah is actually the best person to contact regarding the Inspire survey at this point.
Ooh, even better. Thanks, Erin.
And I'll put her email in the chat box and send it to you, Megan.
Oh, I actually have it from something else that came from her, so I was headed in that direction anyway.
Okay, great. So next we have a question from Carol Mullen, but she is on the telephone, so I'm unable to unmute her. But she does have a question. So if she would like to ask it, I'm not sure what to do about that.
Oh, we can't unmute.
Yeah, because
thing. Unless we unmute everybody, probably, right?
Correct. I'm currently writing her in the chat box to see if she could type the question.
All right.
Okay.
Let me see if there are any other raised hands. Not currently. Oh, there are some questions in the question box.
Oh, well, mine is blank, so.
Okay, she has 3 questions, so hopefully she will write those to us.
Oh, that's weird.
One of her questions is whether or not they will have your PowerPoint slides.
And you mean
the attendees today and the other PSRs who are not in attendance?
Right. We are actually recording this session, so that'll be put up onto the YouTube and the Google websites, and then what we can do is send the link out to all the new PSRs who weren't able to make it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Another one of her questions is there another appreciative inquiry webinar being scheduled for those of us with scheduling conflicts?
I'm afraid not, but the last one that we are doing in October will also be recorded, and so that one will make available as well before the plenum meets in November. And then you can always
on October 5th.
Yeah, the one on October 5th. And then and at the end of this, you'll see my email, but you can absolutely email me about, if you want to just sort of touch base quickly over the phone about what's been happening so far on that.
And her last question was whether or not there's any distinction between returning and new PSRs, or if they're all always considered part of the same group.
They're all part of the new group. I mean, they're all part of the group, and so what will happen at the plenum is that we'll introduce the new PSRs. Usually, it's about a third of the plenum that turns over every year. And so that we introduce the new PSRs. As I said, you'll have a plenum partner that'll help you walk you through the next few months or as long as you need them to. But essentially, you kind of hit the ground running in November when you arrive.
Mm-hmm. The only ways that there is any kind of distinction is that, with the plenum partner, you kind of get identified as being new, but that's only for you, so that we can help you get acclimated and that you have at least one friendly face. If you don't know anybody there, at least you'll have one person looking for you and who's able to answer questions for you, but it doesn't impact your ability to vote or anything like that. You are a full voting member by virtue of representing your institution, as long as if your institution has voting privileges, then you have voting privileges. And then the only other time that it has an impact is if there is a length of time requirement for an opportunity that you want to be a part of. So whether it's you're wanting to run for the EC and there's a 3-year PSR commitment requirement that you've had to be at least 3 years in the PSR position, And then I think some other leadership opportunities require some length of service. But that's the only, right, Monica? That's the only thing that I'm thinking that there's any distinction made. But for everything else, it's one voting body, one plenum. We don't keep distinctions of who's been around longer, who's new.
Yeah, that's right.
And lastly, I just wanted to mention Marla McGee made a very good point that I believe that you can actually download the PowerPoint straight from this webinar. And
Oh,
it's
right.
posted as part of the webinar, and you're able to download it. So if anyone wants to do that today, they can.
Very good.
There's a little on my computer. It looks like there's a handouts tab, and if you click the down arrow for that, then there's a little link to the UCEA new PSR orientation .2015, and you can get it that way. Other questions that people have? Anyone else have a hand raised?
No, there are currently no other hands raised or questions in the chat box or question box.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that this is not your only opportunity to ask questions. You'll have a buddy PSR assigned to you. You can always go to that person with questions. And I hope that you know that you can always reach out to Monica, to me, to Erin, anybody on the EC. And I'm sure if you know any of the PSRs, just through UCEA, you can reach out to them as well. We're a helpful group.
We are. And yeah, so you probably know that Noelle is our president right now, and so she's outgoing president, but she definitely is someone that you can reach out to. And then my information is there. I'm the president-elect, so as of November, I'll be the president. So you feel free to reach out to me as well if you have questions, either about anything we talked about today or about the appreciative inquiry, any of the other initiatives, whatever. And as Tara said, the EC is a fairly friendly bunch, so you can reach out to any of us if you have questions between now and November.
And I just heard from Noelle while we were on the call, and she had a family emergency, which is why she is not on the call, and she sends her regrets, but it was out of her control to not be here.
Thanks, Tara. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, we appreciate your time. We'll let you get back to the list of things that you have to do today, I'm sure. But we appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, and look forward to seeing you in San Diego.
Yay! Bye, everybody.